we have discussed the possibility of the Seahawks taking a quarterback. And for the most part, Bump, we've looked at like day 3 guys, right? Maybe a third round guy, late day 2. But it's been names like, well, what about Tyler Shuck? What about Dylan Gabriel? What about Kyle McCord out of Syracuse, who's going to go much later? But what about Quinn Ewers, who's going to go much later? Because we just felt like, what with especially the re-addition of Drew Lock, it felt incredibly unlikely the Seahawks would take a quarterback early. It's not an especially strong quarterback class. I know that John Schneider has said beauty is in the eye of the beholder when it comes to this class, but we all know what the needs are, right? Yeah, you need to find your franchise answer, but you need a guard. You need to get that run game going. You need to find an answer at corner if you don't extend Reek Wolin. You need, you have other things that you need to do. However, I'm going to reintroduce it. Now 24 hours away from round 1. What if the Seahawks take a quarterback earlier than we all think? ESPN's Brady Henderson asked that very question in his latest column up on ESPN.com right now. Asked at the league meetings if Seattle could draft a quarterback, Mike McDonald said, quote, "I think so, but my answer to that's going to be yes every year. I think you've just got to be willing to take a quarterback. We'll see. It's got to be the right person, the right opportunity, and if it comes to life, then we will do it." So what's changed? Well, some intel, some hypothesizing from one Adam Schefter. Here's Adam.
They haven't used a first or second round pick on a quarterback since they took Rick Meyer in 1993. So we're talking about here over 30 years without a top pick on a quarterback. Let's see if general manager John Schneider changes that this year.
That is the second time this week alone that Adam Schefter has hypothesized that the Seahawks might take a quarterback.
I'm not buying it. Don't do it.
Oh, I'm drinking that Kool-Aid.
At 18, don't do it.
I added some sugar. I added lots of ice. You know how I like really icy drinks, and I started drinking that Kool-Aid.
I don't care if they haven't drafted a quarterback in the first and second round in 30 years. So what? The Saints ain't done it since 1971. Like, you have other things to do. And if you do get a quarterback, so be it. But I'm saying right now, don't do it. If you're going to grab a quarterback, grab it with number 52. The 52 pick in the second round, you got it from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The only way that they're going to look at drafting a quarterback is if Shedeur Sanders slides, if Jackson Dart slides. So you got to get past New Orleans. You got to get past Pittsburgh. I don't think Shedeur gets past Pittsburgh if he is available. Maybe not even Jackson Dart. So you're hoping one of those guys are available. I'm saying don't do it. There's Grace Abel who might be available. O-line guy. Kelvin Banks from Texas, O-line. Matthew Golden, wide receiver. Donovan Izaraku. I'm sorry if I'm jacking your name up, young man. Edge from BC. Tyler Booker from Alabama. There are other things you need to do. Getting a quarterback at 18 would tell me that your priority is elsewhere. It's not about just getting the best player out there. You're trying to set yourself up for the future, which I get in the future. You can walk away from this draft and I'd be like, all right, well, they got their quarterback for the future. Hopefully, let's see. What if Sam Darnold works out? What if he looks good this first year? You don't have to force this right now. Don't do something just because you haven't done it in 30 years. Do what's best for your team. You have a quarterback. You paid him $30-something million. Let's see what happens there. If there's a quarterback late that you like, there's going to be Shuck. There's going to be Milroe. There's going to be Dillon. There are other guys that you can experiment with. The quarterback class is not that juicy this year. If it was last year's class and one of those 8-9 dudes were available, I'd be like, yeah, go ahead and get it at number 18. You got other things to do. If you do get a quarterback, so be it. I'm not going to get mad at you. You don't care if I'm mad anyway. But there are other things that you need to do at 18.
Yesterday, I was running late to work. Today, I was as well, but we don't need to put that out there. Yesterday, I was running late to work. And why was I running late to work, Bump? Because I saw some smoke. And I saw smoke, and I thought, why is there smoke, a bunch of smoke on the side of the freeway? What's going on? And as I drove closer, you know what was there underneath the smoke? A fire. Because where there's smoke, Bump,
oh my gosh,
there is always
you know how this
fire.
goes. There's smoke everywhere.
What's this, Adam Schefter?
Smoke everywhere.
A second time this week. Adam Schefter, the most well-connected man in sports reporting, is saying, well, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the Seahawks do take a quarterback. Maybe they do it. Hey, here's John Schneider being asked about the quarterback room and whether it precludes them from taking a quarterback.
It doesn't preclude us from doing anything in the draft.
Interesting, John. Interesting.
I can tell you anything.
Smoke in the distance.
Stacey, I got an ocean. I got an ocean that Idaho borders that I'm gonna sell to you. There's an ocean out there. I'll give it to you for $50 right now.
I'm just saying.
Adam, I respect.
Smoke,
let me tell. I respect Adam Schefter because obviously he knows more than I do when it comes to these connections. He's wrong more than he's right when it comes to the draft. Most of these guys are wrong more than they're right. It's speculation season. He could be right, but what I'm saying is Seahawks don't do it. He could be right. I'm just telling him, you don't need to draft a quarterback at 18. You have your quarterback. You got other things to do. There are quarterbacks that are going to be available later. Go ahead and do that. And also, we know Shefty, man. He gets calls. You think people don't call Shefty just to put stuff out there? I got a conspiracy theory that I'm going to talk about in 4 Down territory about all this draft stuff that goes on. You think people don't call Shefty? You think they don't call Yates, Lewis Riddick, all these dudes and put a little something in their ear, and their job is to put it out there and make us buy it? He could be right. Okay, and I respect it because his Rolodex is deeper than mine. Yeah. I'm just saying, Hawks, you ain't got to do it, though. You don't have to do it.
They don't, and honestly, they shouldn't. Like, if I'm being me, Stacy, how I feel about the draft, I don't want to see a quarterback taken at 18 because that quarterback, in all likelihood, is going to be Jackson Dart, and I don't think Jackson Dart is going to start for you this year. I don't think that he has an immediate impact on your team. And let's say that he's starting for you next year. Does that make you automatically a Super Bowl team? I mean, sure, you could end up hitting on him in the draft, but he's going to be overdrafted at 18. If he is taken at 18, I promise you not a single draft analyst, and Bump, you know this, not a single draft analyst would have Jackson Dart as their 18th best player. Not a one.
No.
You know what I mean? So it would be an overdraft for sure. I don't think they should do it. However, I've started to change the way I'm looking at it and going, okay, well, I'm not in that room making a decision. The Seahawks can surprise people. Let's say it's not at 18. Let's say it's at 50-ish.
52.
What if it's Jalen Milroe?
That's what I said. Take him at 52.
And that still might be too high. And I don't think Jalen Milroe is going to be there at 50 or 52.
I don't think Milroe.
I think he'll be off the board early.
He's the 4th best quarterback, I believe.
I think he'll go at like
draft.
34 or 35.
But you got other guys. You got Kyle McCord. You got Will Howard. You have Dylan Gabriel. You got Shuck over there. You got other options. Guys are going to be available at 52. And because this isn't a quarterback needy draft, there's only really 2 to 3 teams that you can look at, maybe 4, that you say this team needs a quarterback. Cleveland needs a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback. The Saints need a quarterback. The Steelers need a quarterback. After that, guys have their starters in place, and this draft isn't deep enough for someone to make that big of a reach. Quarterbacks get overdrafted every single year. That's just how the game goes. But it's all about circumstances, man. 4 teams really need a quarterback. Everyone else is good. You just paid your quarterback, brought in Drew Lock as well. Chill with number 18. Go ahead and draft a guard, a receiver, a linebacker, whatever the heck. You don't need that at 18. But if you do draft a QB at 18, of course, I will support you, and I will look at it through your lens and try to make sense of it.
Okay, then I want to practice this exercise right now. Let's pretend the pick is in at 18. Jackson Dart, 18 for the Seahawks. Tell me how you're feeling right now. If that's the pick. If that's the pick.
If that's the pick, I'm thinking. See, here's the thing about that. With this hypothetical situation we're in right now, I got to see what's happened before this. That determines like the other picks. That determines how I really feel about this pick. Like if Booker's off the board, Zabel's off the board, Loveland's off the board, Warren's off the board. Like there's some names we expect to be off.
Let's say Zabel isn't.
If Zabel isn't off the board, then I'm thinking you probably should have went that direction. You probably should have went that direction. He's one of the best offensive linemen in the game or in this draft right now. Jackson Dart, okay, is a project. That means that him and Drew Lock are going to battle. And it means that he's going to sit for at least a year and try to learn. And that means that Kubiak felt like he would be essential to the growth of this team. It also means that you're banking on that 3-year contract to be done with when it comes to Sam Darnold. Maybe after a year. That means that you don't trust Sam Darnold the way that well, no one really trusts Sam Darnold. You got 1 year, right? You got to prove it. It makes sense. I'm not. This is the way I operate.
I'm just being messy, Bump. I'm just being messy.
This is the way I operate. I look at both sides, right? Okay. I'm never the guy who sits in an argument and says, I'm siding with this person just because that's my dude. Nah, in public I might, but when we get alone, I might be like, hey, bro, you was tripping on that one. All right, let me tell you what's going on.
Privately, you're having private Seahawks conversations.
Exactly. So I try to see it from where they're coming from, and that just tells me how they view their quarterback room and how they view the picks before them. That tells me that all the guys that they wanted before them were out of there. And their chart, their philosophy, the way they approached this draft was to go this direction if A, B, and C happen.
I think it tells me, let's say the hypothetical is that someone that you and I really like for this team. So maybe it's, Matthew Golden. Maybe it's Gray Zabel. Maybe it's Booker. And maybe it's someone who is either a pass catcher who could help that offense or an offensive lineman is available. It tells us one of these two things. Number one, that guy had health concerns. That guy had a health or character question the Seahawks could not get over. Okay. 2, it would make me wonder if there's pressure from someone outside of John Schneider, above John Schneider, to get a quarterback in the building. I do think John Schneider has an itch he'd like to scratch, which is taking more quarterbacks. I don't know that John Schneider is willing to pull the trigger at 18 for a quarterback. I really don't think. In fact, speaking of Adam Schefter, another report that we had from Adam Schefter was that the Seahawks were one of the many teams looking to trade back. So I don't think they're eager to trade up and take Shedeur Sanders or to pull the trigger on their quarterback in the first round. However, I do think that there is something within John Schneider that wants to take a passer, that wants to just see what happens, and that would love to do it more frequently than he has been. When does that start?
It's I think that it's an assumption, one, but it's a qualified assumption, I think, because we know how John likes to evaluate quarterbacks. Like, that's his thing. He loves evaluating quarterbacks. So it's an assumption, but it's a qualified assumption. I think that he's looking at this draft, and he has to approach it in the way, what makes my team better for next year? It's not down the road at this point. You have a defense that's pretty dang good, that I think is going to be a top 10 defense, potentially be a top 5 defense in this league. But you have an offense that needs some help. You went out and you got the most available, the most qualified free agent quarterback out there. You filled that void. You got that already. You need offensive linemen. You need more weapons on the outside. The defense is not going to be able to carry you throughout the whole season. But listen, he could just get that itch. He could wake up that morning and say, you know what? Jackson Dart or Sanders is available. Let's plan for our future. But I think that in this draft, you have to plan for the future. Obviously, you get all these picks. These are young guys. But your team has to be able to compete for the division right now. And I think competing for the division right now would mean getting the best football player available, not the best quarterback available. Again, I could understand if he did go get a quarterback, building for the future. But that 18 pick, you want him to be playing. When's the first game? Whatever the first weekend is in NFL football, you want him out on the football field.
From the Mac and Jacks text line, the 206 says, what if they trade back and get Dart at 28 or 29? I just don't think Dart's going to be there at 28 or 29.
That's tough.
I think that someone will overdraft Dart. Will it be you? That's how you have to think of all these quarterbacks. Someone will overdraft Jalen Milroe. Will it be you? You can't sit back at 52 and wait for Milroe. He's not going to be there.
If they go back to 28, 29, I think your theory, which I think you're halfway joking, but you put it out there because you're a Matthew Stafford hater, that at 26, the Rams might go ahead and grab a guy.
Yes. Because
of Matthew Stafford's age. If they bounce back to 28, 29, Shedeur ain't going to be there. Dart ain't going to be there.
No, I think if they go back to 28, 29, you might be. That's when maybe you're taking a pass catcher that would have otherwise, like maybe like the third wide receiver, someone like that that's kind of like slipping under the radar. I don't know how Seahawks fans would feel. I know Mike Salk wouldn't love another first-round wide receiver. I don't know how other Seahawks fans would feel about a first-round wide receiver, but I could see that being the pick if they trade back that late. I could also potentially see an interior guy. So maybe Gray Zabel isn't available anymore, but that's when they feel okay taking a lineman because it's not someone at 18. It's someone that maybe they have a second-round grade on, and they can go, well, what's the difference between 28 and 35?
Moving back means you feel like you're going to be able to get your guy. We ain't tripping, but we also are going to pad our stats a little bit and get a second, third-round pick and get more shots at this whole thing. I would understand that moving back. But if they were to move back and Dart or Shedeur is available, which I highly doubt, that would make sense to me. But at 18, I'm like, man, get the best ball player.